Good morning and welcome to the National Newspaper Publishers Association's Let It Be Known. And nobody in Florida knows how to act, and that's where we are. And if people knew how to behave in Florida, Austin wouldn't be here. Austin is with us. We're in Fort Lauderdale at the 2024 NNPA Midwinter Training Conference, and things really kicked off last night, Austin. We got a lot to talk about, first of all, but I want to talk about this, get this out the way. So last night, there was a historic gathering of the Black press led by Dr. Benjamin F. Chavis Jr., the president and CEO of the NNPA, and the Jewish community led by the Anti-Defamation League. I think there was not the executive director, but the second in charge.
Yeah, the director, I believe, of National Government Relations.
Yeah, Mr. Greenblatt did not appear, but he was well represented. Austin, what was your takeaway from that gathering?
And good morning to you and Greer and to the viewers. Really good and much needed discussion, Stacy. This discussion needs to never stop. It needs to be ongoing. As you know, anti-Semitism has been noticeably, as was stated last night by Matt from the Anti-Defamation League, has been on a noticeable rise since the Hamas attack on October 7th. But I am to me, when I look at an Israeli mother in pain, having lost her son or daughter or mother, relative, and when I look at a Palestinian, mother or father who's lost a loved one, there's no difference. It's the same. And what I, fear most is with, and it didn't just start on October 7th, but what I fear is with each of these, attacks, we now have around 27,000 Palestinians who have been killed and or displaced. Is that we are sowing the seeds, watering hatred for generations to come. So I thought the discussion last night was very good. I had the that was on the screen or on the the stage.
Right.
There were pictures of Dr. King with several Jewish leaders, but also
it was a nice looking stage.
Really nice.
I thought if I was proud of anything, I was proud of the way that they set it up. We got to give a big shout out to the NNPA chair and the West Side Gazette publisher, the host publisher of this conference, Bobby R. Henry.
Absolutely. And I was glad to see Dr. Chavis mention that they're going to take that stage, around the country for similar types of discussion. But there was a picture of the mothers of Goodman, Schwerner, and Cheney that particularly stood out. And it stood out because I had the pleasure of meeting and getting to know Andrew Goodman's mother, Dr. Goodman. So, yeah.
So I thought it was interesting, a few things, and Dr. Chavis mentioned this and others mentioned this, that this was planned long before October 7th. So that was important that they mentioned that this wasn't just some sort of let's react and do this. So it was really important. But here's a question, Austin, because I know you pay close attention to these things. You were there last night from start to finish. The question I have, and it's not really my question. I've seen the viewers ask this question. I've seen folks pose this question on social media a lot and just in everyday life. Black folks, I'm talking about. Black folks often say, we are probably the most discriminated people against people. Racism has reigned in America forever. Where is the response? Because we see the response when there's anti-Semitism involved, and it should be the response that we get. But where is the outcry from all people when Black people are transgressed against and in this form? We saw it after George Floyd, right? We saw it after Dr. King was murdered. but they come in only pockets.
Exactly. Exactly.
Why is that? And where is, listen, where's the ADL and everyone else when Black people are discriminated against,
Yeah,
which
and
is
that,
regular?
I mean, you raise a very valid point, and that is, other groups are not nearly as consistent
Right.
as they should be.
And make no
When there are
mistake.
these, when there are the attacks, I remember last night, Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz making the point that Jewish parents are having to talk to their children, talk to their relatives
Mhm.
about maybe not wearing the Star of David or not necessarily.
We can't take Black off of us unless we Michael Jackson.
Exactly. And, yeah. So while I found her point, interesting and certainly respect the Congresswoman's point, we drive while Black.
Right.
We walk down the street while Black.
Starbucks
we sleep
while Black.
When we go into a department store, no one is questioning necessarily our religious beliefs or affiliation. They just see Black, and that automatically, can raise challenges. I find it always interesting when whites are, so anti-affirmative action. If you look at, any hospital in the nursery and look at a Black baby and a white baby, regardless of their economic circumstances of their, respective parents, no matter how you look at it, that white child is already within minutes of birth. They were born, Black child, white child, born the same time, different rooms.
Mm-hmm.
But that white child automatically has an advantage over that Black
Absolutely.
child. And that is the reality of ongoing systemic, non-systemic racism in the United States.
Well, Power 96 mentions a couple of things here that one, he was referenced it last night. I saw him watching last night. He says, I was waiting on the Claudine question. Were they in support of her removal? So there are some things so when you hold these things, and I understand that people have their questions. It wasn't a Q&A type of situation last night. But we can't cover everything, right?
Absolutely.
And at this point, we all know why Claudine Gay was pretty much, even though she resigned, but pretty much removed from her position. We know this was a racist, anti-Black woman attack from the beginning. She never stood a chance, right?
No, never. Yeah, and I want to know how much safer do Jewish students feel? And again, I'm not in favor of discrimination against anybody, Jews, Blacks, anybody, but I'd like to know how much safer Jewish students feel on the campus of Harvard in the three weeks, almost a month, than she resigned, which we know was fired. She was given no option to leave. This woman had Dr. Gay had a long, distinguished academic career, not just at Harvard, but at a previous prestigious universities. And no one ever accused her of anti-Semitism. Now, having said that, she and the other university president certainly could have and should have been more prepared for that congressional hearing. She should not have only been the one fired. Several of her staff should have been fired because they set each of those women up, and I'm particularly concerned with Dr. Gay.
Yeah, and like I said, that was the moment she took the job. Whether it was going to be some trumped up plagiarism charges, whether it was going to be some trumped up anti-Semitic message, whether it was just going to be, listen, you're a Black woman. She was never going to succeed at Harvard. They were not going to allow. Not that she's not. We know she's more than capable. She's probably as capable or more than capable than just about every president that Harvard has ever had.
And that's the sad part, is that she had gone down in history as the first Black and female president of Harvard University with the shortest tenure.
Yep.
And that fact cannot be changed. That fact cannot be erased. That
Okay.
is etched in stone, and it is so unfortunate and was so unnecessary.
Totally unnecessary. We are, again, live at the National Newspaper Publishers Association's 2024 annual midwinter training conference here in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And because we're in Florida, the pit, the den of Viper, the Viper himself, the governor. We got to talk about these things. Let's segue a little bit to the Senator Tim Scott. Tim Scott, and look, I know politics is one thing. I always issue this disclaimer. I cover politics. I don't get too involved in politics at all. But having said that, however, when you look at,
however,
yeah, I'm trying to do it as black as possible, not EVER. EVA. However, when you look at Tim Scott, and I don't care how you feel about race or anything like that, but when you look at Tim Scott, don't it remind you of a minstrel show at best?
Absolutely.
And some sort of, he's one of those guys that when you envision, pre 1519 or 1619, how you want to, whatever date you want to put on it. Dr. Chaves and I have come up with 1519 instead of 1619.
Mm-hmm.
But when you vision pre-slavery, during slavery, you envision Tim Scott as one of those guys they use when a slave escapes. They use him to go and track down that slave.
Exactly.
Tim Scott is an embarrassment to Tim Scott. He is hideously embarrassed. I love you. This is what he said to Donald Trump. Let's look at the video.
She actually appointed you, Tim. And think of it, appointed, and you're the senator of his state, and she endorsed me. You must really hate her. No, it's a shame. It's a shame. Uh-oh.
I just love you.
No, that's why he's a great politician.
I mean, how
did you ever think that?
And we try to keep it as family friendly as possible on this show, right? I mean, but I get the impression that he would go out on the street for Donald Trump and work the corners for Donald Trump.
He has proven that numerous times before. Look, I don't have issue with Black Republicans. I think that Blacks should be in both major political parties because as a lifelong Democrat, I feel that indeed the Democratic Party at times take the Black vote for granted, takes the woman vote for granted. So I understand that we just celebrated Dr. King's 93rd birthday on January 15th. But
I'll let you sink or swim on that because I don't know.
It was 93, but 1929. I was never good at math. But let's not forget that his father, Daddy King,
Mm-hmm.
was a Republican. The great senator from the state of Massachusetts, Edward Brooke, was a Republican. I have issue with Blacks, any Black,
Mm-hmm.
being a supporter, a Republican supporter of Donald Trump. That just irks me to no end.
Yes, the bottom line is you don't have to be racist. You don't have to be a racist to support Trump, but all Trump supporters are racist.
Absolutely.
How about that?
Yeah.
Southbound 3000 says racism is a profit for all other ethnic. I lost your. Ethnic groups when African Americans are the target, and of course, Power 96 Greer is asking for the red bone. Is there a blue bone or a white bone? It's just a red bone, huh?
Red bone, just
This
red
is a red
bone, just red.
Okay, but anyway, but going back to Tim Scott. So Nikki Haley appointed him. You talk about somebody who that right there. So even and you can see it really. I mean, as wild as Donald Trump can be, right? He said exactly what he was thinking. You must really hate her, and he said that for a number of reasons. He's very calculated. People say, "Oh, he's crazy." Yeah, sometimes he's crazy like a fox. He knows what he's saying, and what he was saying to Tim Scott, and Tim Scott gave him the opposite answer that he was looking for. Trump wasn't looking for Tim Scott to say, "Oh, because I love you." Trump was looking for some reason Tim Scott.
I agree. I hate her.
Well, no. He was looking for Tim Scott to say something in which Trump could say in his mind, "Okay, I can trust Tim Scott." That answer told Trump, "I can't trust him."
I think the only answer, respectfully disagree, and I think the only answer that would have given Donald Trump any trust of Tim Scott would have been to say, "I agree, I hate her." Those three words is what someone crazy like Trump was really.
I think he was looking for him to say something about why he has decided to go against the person who basically gave him life in this political game.
Yeah, I mean, everybody at that rally, certainly everybody on the stage and the audience, loves Trump. So, Tim
so he's
Scott
playing to the crowd.
Exactly, yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, look, we talk about a minstrel show, and that's what they did, right? Let's face it, Tim Scott is wearing blackface. He's not a black man. He's wearing blackface.
And you could look at that, and when I first saw it, I said, it was almost like it was rehearsed, like they had practiced. And then I said, no, that was off the cuff. That was genuine. Yeah. But it was so minstrel-like. The black man walks up, kind of walks up, and Trump's like, uh-oh. Yes. And then he says, that's that nonsense.
Do the jig, Negro.
Yeah.
Dance that jig.
And I would be very surprised if Trump selects him as his running mate. It's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. And look, let's face it.
The white girlfriend?
Even after the white girlfriend. And he proposed. So the great thing about Tim Scott's proposal, right? It was true Tim Scott. And I have nothing whatsoever against interracial marriages. I got a brother who's married to a white woman. I got great friends in interracial marriages, friends I trust with my life, right?
Yep. But
Tim Scott on his knees, that picture of him on his knees before this white woman proposed, you could put just about any white person in her spot. That's Tim Scott's position when it comes to white folks.
Yep. And it did not look, genuine. Look, I respect any and everybody's, sexual choices, sexual preferences, but there have been rumors out there for a long time about Tim Scott. Having said that, the photo didn't look.
See through this?
No.
Say again.
Do you think white voters see through this?
White voters only see. Okay, so. Not all white voters. Trump white voters, they see him in his place, right? As we said, they see Tim Scott. Okay, this is what we expect from you Negroes. You to be complicit. What is the word I'm looking for? But you to kowtow and to be subservient. And Tim Scott is letting everyone know, Massa Trump, I'm your boy. Because Trump could say Trump could call Tim Scott a boy. He can call him his slave, and Tim Scott
would not have walked off that stage.
Right,
he would not have walked off that stage.
Exactly. And Power 96 says this is a renter wife, though, because and look, I believe he's absolutely right. All that was staged.
Absolutely.
Because Trump made a comment that the vice president should be married. So Tim Scott is like, he's running out there. Oh, see, listen, Massa, I'm doing what you say, Massa.
Well, I mean, look, this, his, fiance, quotes around fiance, to me seemed to disappear immediately after
Disappeared. Yes.
after Senator Scott dropped out of the race, and then magically reappears.
Mhm.
And
He's like the Magical Negro
exactly.
movie, right? Is that the movie, The Magical Negro?
And when not if when he is not selected by Trump to be his running mate, because he pretty much has got the nomination locked up, I suspect that she will be put back on the shelf.
It's going to be interesting. Now, Nikki Haley is not going to be the vice presidential pick, right? Tim Scott is not. And even if Tim Scott, let's just say Trump had a little too much to drink on the night that he picks his vice president, right? And he picks Tim Scott, right? That is not going to sway. In fact, I can make an argument, and I'm sure many will make an argument, that actually will turn off Black folks.
And excite the Democratic
base. And excite the Democratic base. So I think Trump is a little bit more strategic than folks give him credit for. Because, I mean, look, he's mastered the 91 criminal counts, and every time he's in the courtroom, he turns it into a campaign event.
He's supposed to be in the courtroom today. But, it goes back, if I may, Stacey, what also, and I'm not a fan of Senator Scott, clearly. I'm not a fan of Nikki Haley. Would I rather have her, if there was going to be a Republican, would I rather have Governor Haley as opposed to Trump? Absolutely.
You see how formal Austin can be, Governor Haley. I mean, it's like the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. He's Uncle Phil.
Nikki.
It's unbelievable.
Okay, Nikki.
Thank you.
You feel better, Nikki?
I knew a girl named Nikki. I'm like Prince.
Crazy. But it goes to the the blatant disloyalty of Tim Scott.
Mm-hmm. You don't say Senator Scott.
Sorry, Tim.
Right, but you didn't say
Can I
Senator.
say Tim or Timothy? Which do you prefer?
Oh,
Tim.
gosh. Django, Stephen from Django. That's what you call him, was Stephen or Stephen.
I mean, she took him out of relative obscurity, appointed him to the United States Senate, and I think a decent politician would have endorsed her when he dropped out, even with the belief that she's going to crash and burn. If not in New Hampshire, she's certainly going to crash and burn in South Carolina, and then come out and endorse Dump, which he was just dying to do.
Yeah, and Power 96 again. I mean, I know others are writing in comments. Angela Connolly says she's around when the payment is due, talking about the renter wife. And Power 96 says it will definitely excite Black men like me to vote against Tim. Remember, Tim failed at police reform. Tim failed.
That's right. Tim
failed at. That's the problem. In the first grade, he failed at being Black, so that's why he turned every. But let's talk about Florida. We in Florida. We got to talk about Florida. Here's something else that's going on in Florida politically. So, it's Republican controlled state. The governor, the Senate, and the state representatives, they are proposing a bill to pay Trump's legal fees for his defenses, his multiple defenses. You mentioned just a moment ago that he is back in New York, expected in the courtroom shortly in New York for his second sexual assault trial, in which they're trying to determine more damages for his victim, the writer E. Jean Carroll, who last year a jury awarded her $5 million in damages for Trump sexually assaulting her. He continues to defame her, allegedly anyway. And so they are back in court again. At any moment now, any day now, a judge in New York is going to slap anywhere from $250 million to $375 million in fines for what the judge described as massive business fraud that he and his organization committed. They're going to bar him probably from doing business ever again in the state of New York. We recently got a report from Congress. A Congress investigation found that Trump traded favors with foreign governments, I should say, including rivals, American rivals, while in the White House. And we know that he inspired a insurrection that led to at least 5 law enforcement officers death,
And he prepared to do it again
and he's
if he loses in November.
and he continues to send the signal that let's do it again if the votes don't fall his way in November. But Florida wants to, I say all that to get to the point, right? Florida wants to pay his legal bills.
Now, under what circumstances does that make any sense whatsoever, other than blind, ignorant, stupid loyalty to Donald Trump? Some of these same folks want to, who are in favor of this, who will vote for this. I guess it would have to be a referendum, or would it just be a legislative bill? I don't know.
This is a bill that they're attempting. Well, when they say they're going to pass, the only thing that is in their way, that's standing in their way, is Governor DeSantis, who has sent signals that he would veto the bill. And it's very odd, I should say, for lack of a better term, when you hear the governor here in Florida at odds with the legislature, whom he's used to ban books, to even, you can't say that here in Florida, you can be fined $35,000 if you call somebody a racist, even if they are racist. You can't even call someone a racist here in Florida, and you could possibly face some jail time. This is a bill that they are pushing through as well, and that the governor can't wait for it to get to his desk to sign it.
Well, DeSantis is, in his feelings, to put it mildly.
How much in his
right
feelings?
Now, really into his feelings. He
Listen, he went up against Mickey Mouse.
Exactly. Yeah.
What in the world?
Who does that? Who does that? Your largest private employer in the entire state.
Bringing in
how many
so
people? How
much
many millions
revenue.
of dollars they bring in? How many people are? Does Disney employ? And you're going to?
It's about the only reason they're coming to Florida now.
Yeah. No, it was all about that. Mixed up, twisted theory in his brain of family values. Family values for me differ from family values for
don't say
everyone
gay,
else.
don't say racist, don't say critical race theory, something that they conjured up. Don't have Black authored books. Don't mention slavery. It didn't exist. It benefited, if anything, Black folks, according to DeSantis.
What child, Black or white, would not benefit from reading about Dr. King or Hank Aaron or Rosa Parks?
Or Prince.
Thank
you. Y'all don't understand. Concerts will never be the same since Prince. It hasn't been the same. So I went to a concert a few months ago. And it wasn't the first concert I went to since Prince's death. But every concert becomes harder because there's no Prince. I know he's not coming on the stage.
Yeah.
I need some help, Austin.
Help. Sorry, Dave, I couldn't resist.
That's not helping me. But so here's something else that people are talking about. It happened last month. We got to talk about this also. I know you wasn't up.
And before we move on, if I can,
Sure,
I heard
sure.
an interesting
Cut.
bulletin.
Austin trying to be the producer, the director. Greer,
Sorry,
it's Greer's
Greer.
job.
Sorry, Greer. Don't look at me like that, Greer. I probably won't happen. I just want to make a point.
Mhm.
Trump is back in New York today for the E. Jean Carroll case.
Yes.
He may or may not. Do you know that last night he tweeted, whatever you call it, X'd, or he's on Truth Social, 37 negative comments about E. Jean Carroll.
Yeah.
That goes to show you how nuts.
Well, here's a guy,
Yes.
right? Here's a guy that's been admonished time and again by not one, but multiple judges, right? And when they admonish him, he goes and does the same thing. He was in court, a week ago or 2 weeks ago, and the judge told his lawyer, control your client. Now, Austin Cooper, if that were you, if you were those attorneys' clients, would the judge have said control your client? What would the judge have done?
The controlling of me would have been handcuffed.
Uh-oh.
And
Power
taken in the
96. Power 96 is shooting his shot at Greer now. Come on, Austin, say something about that. We can't allow
What do you say
that.
about Greer?
He says producer Greer is a cutie pie. Like she's like she's 18 years old. I mean, 18, no, maybe 22 she is, but
Stay focused.
stay focused, she says.
And
Stay
look
focused.
at Greer blushing. Wow.
She's not blushing, not at all.
Not at all.
Not at all.
No, okay.
Don't
No,
be
she's
trying
not.
to
She's not.
project. Don't be trying to project. All these women be like Austin with the white beard and all that. And he's projecting. Y'all don't believe Austin. He's projecting. Anyway, you making me digress. What was I going to talk about? I was going to talk about
something profound.
something profound.
Yes.
Come on. When's the last time I said something profound?
That's all you do. That's why I call you the legendary renowned
here we go.
Stacey Brown.
Nonetheless, this show is going south. We are in the South, the deep South. But nonetheless, so here's something, Austin, that came up on the radar. And Misha Green from the Washington Post, the esteemed editor of the Washington Informer, the one and only Misha Green. That's renowned. Misha is renowned.
True.
Like the Redbone.
True.
She's renowned.
But you are too.
Listen, don't be putting me in the category of Misha and Dawn and Totally Randy. Come on now, you're trying to get me in trouble. My wife is watching. Anyway, so Misha called me yesterday. Did you see the body cam footage? She was talking about the California cop who this is such infuriating stuff. Are we going to show the video? It's very, very graphic. It's a trigger warning attached to it. But even Greer's like, I don't know if I should show that video. And Greer's hardcore. She usually just, she's a gunslinger herself. But nonetheless, this officer shoots this woman, Deputy Ty Shelton, right? So the woman calls 911,
Hold on.
and here we go.
Hey, come out. Yeah, I'm gonna stab him because he just
Go. Give me a taser.
Yeah. So we cut it there. Greer cut it there, and understandably so. But he tells the other officer, you hear him tell the other officer, get your taser, right? And so they enter the apartment. He tells her to get her taser, but yet he blasts away. Her little 9-year-old daughter, as you can see in the video, was standing just feet away from her, right? So she was in distress. This young woman, 27 years old, was in distress, Austin. And that is the racist cop who, and I'm going to use the term racist. They even in Florida, because I'm not talking about a Florida person. But that's the daughter, and this is not the first time he's done that. So the large problem here, as we know, the ongoing assassination of Black people by
And that's where the
folks,
assassination
right.
calculated.
Folks of color. In this case, once again, when they talk about police reform and things, one of the biggest things they talk about is mental health, domestic counseling, violence counseling, or intervention and things like that. She called 911 to say that her ex-boyfriend was abusing her daughter. And they come to the scene. She apparently has a knife, saying that if they don't get him out of that house, she's going to stab him. But as you see, it was an immediate gunshot.
And she wasn't, from what I briefly saw, she wasn't, lunging at anybody. She wasn't even lunging towards her boyfriend.
Well, they
her
claim
boyfriend walks out.
Well, the police
alive.
report says that she was holding the knife on him. Right now, we saw something a little bit different than that. Apparently, different than what that police report said. But we do know that this officer, this deputy, in 2020, was also involved in another situation like that, where he killed a 61-year-old man who was in distress. Black man. And he was in distress, called 911. So here's the thing.
And he's still on the police force. He was still on the very same police force,
right.
Still getting paid.
Probably
no serious investigation.
Nope. And and that's the thing. this stuff keeps happening. We know it keeps happening. From his own body cam, we see what happened. And yet, this is why I asked the question early, and this is why so many people asked the question early about the ADL and other groups who immediately, let's, you know, I know that the gay community has had its issues, right? But there have been advances, great advances there as far as hate crimes against the LGBTQ community. There's been great advances. In fact, anti-Semitism, while it still happens, they've been able to stamp it out to the best that they can. It's not gone. It's never going to go away, of course. But what we have never seemed to make any type of significant, sustained progress is this war that America has had since Black people came over, since the American Indians, since the Native Americans. This war against Black life, right? There's nothing has quelled that. We get, like I said, we get these pockets where that's why when George Floyd happened and these corporations, which they all now have pulled back, when these corporations said, you know what, we're going to do something about it. We're going to throw money here. We're going to throw. My thing was, don't come to the table without a, multi-year,
long-term, starting
at least $100 million. It's like, don't let them off the hook, but we let them off the hook.
I mean, how many of those very same companies, what George Floyd has been gone, this may be 4 years?
Yep.
Yeah, so how many of those very same companies that, were trying to, do better, get rid of their guilt about, their ancestors having slaves, et cetera. How many of those very same companies are still as engaged? Have they,
they got rid of their DEI stuff?
Exactly.
Oh no.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the only way to, effectively address racism is to keep addressing racism. It's not, it doesn't come in seasons. It doesn't come in cycles. It has to be ongoing.
We move from one, like you said, cycle to the next. Mm-hmm. It's okay. It was a feel-good moment. Our ears were tickled. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then it's the next issue. I saw, my girl Rihanna. I love some Rihanna. I saw her marching with the Stop Asian Hate crowd. Right? This was a couple of years ago. That's all well and good. But when is it? And then there was that bill passed, that Asian hate bill passed, mm-hmm. right? That they had all the momentum in the world to pass the George Floyd. This is the problem that folks have with this particular administration, the Biden-Harris administration, right? Right or wrong, they have this problem. And the argument could be made, easy argument, that they've done all they can, the Biden-Harris administration, and they continue to work. But this is where Black folks, and this is why it's so important that the campaign, if they want Black people to support them, they gotta educate them. Mm-hmm. Because the George Floyd Justice and the Police Act, you had all the momentum in the world in June of 2020. The congressman, the great congressman that died, you know what I'm talking about?
From down here?
Oh, gosh, come on. What's the one that marched over the bridge?
Oh, John Lewis.
John Lewis.
They referenced him.
Yes, the John Lewis Voting Rights Act had all the momentum in the world. You had Democrats had the edge in the Senate, they had the House, then they got the presidency. And neither of those two were passed. And so they will never be passed now, ever. They had just like the home rule for Washington, D.C., right? They had the momentum. Eleanor Holmes Norton has worked her life off.
Taxation without representation.
Right.
Absolutely.
It's the most simple thing, right? Mm-hmm. So Democrats have to understand too that they play into that gerrymander. They play into that redistricting stuff that causes Black folks to lose their power. because that Washington D.C. home rule thing, that Washington D.C. bill that makes them their own state should have also been passed
Years ago. It should have been passed under, frankly, the Obama administration.
Yeah.
Just no excuse. And by empowering the people, the residents of the District of Columbia with home rule, and Eleanor Holmes Norton has been a member of Congress, well, at least 25, at least 30 years, and she doesn't have a vote. She can vote in committee.
Yes.
But when it comes to votes on the floor of the House, she has to sit on her hands.
Yeah,
and if you empower the residents of DC, you are thereby empowering African Americans all across the the country, because they will be incentivized to get out and to travel and to fight these efforts at eliminating voting rights. That was referred to by Congressman Schultz, last night. Here in Florida, people are standing outside in the incredible heat, and it's against the law, to give these people who are standing, waiting to exercise their constitutional right to vote, water.
Yeah. And so that's the thing too. That would be if somehow, and it's impossible because you have the MAGA people controlling the House. But if somehow, if I'm in the Biden administration, I'm working my tail off to convince a few Republicans in the House and a couple of Republicans in the Senate. I'm gonna make, because Mitch McConnell and Donald Trump and Bush and all of those Republicans, they did this. They were able to do certain things because you know why? They came to the table to enrich that Democrat who might have been opposed. If I'm Biden, I'm calling in perhaps the 5 most vulnerable members of the House, the 5 most vulnerable Republican members, members of the Senate. We go in behind closed doors, and I'm opening a checkbook and say, write your number. Let me get either the George Floyd Justice and Police Act passed or the John Lewis Voting Rights Act passed. One of those two. Because you know what would that do? No matter what it cost him,
Excite the base.
He'd win. He'd win comfortably.
This situation with these cops is terrible. This police officer was passed a taser and immediately dropped.
Immediately.
This woman. I gotta just reshare this part because this is just it's so painful.
Yeah, it is.
But it's this. He asked for the taser.
He asked her, the other officer, to get the taser.
Right.
And he immediately blows this woman away.
The door is right there. Watch this.
This poor girl.
Watch this. Watch this. He passes him the taser.
Yep.
But listen, and he drops it immediately and starts shooting.
Jesus, look at that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you could see, and I'm glad it's freeze frame right there because you could see where she was standing. The boyfriend is sitting on the couch there. She doesn't have the knife on him. She has the knife. But he immediately, like you said, 4 shots.
He drops the taser. She hands
him the taser.
She hands it to him, and he goes for his gun
Right.
immediately.
He went in there with the intent to kill.
He went. And
He
You
went
know
there.
why he did that? Because he got away with it before.
He got away with it before. This, and perhaps this is something that we're going to do at some point as we delve into our afternoon show. But you remember Eleanor Bumpurs? Did that name ring a bell?
Yeah.
You remember the Guyanese man that I think he was Guyanese that the officers in New York sodomized
in the Bronx.
in the Bronx.
That was the Bronx.
That was
Yeah.
Abdul
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Eric Garner.
Eric Garner. We can say you remember till the cows come home because there's so many right?
That we know about.
That we know
That we
about.
know about.
Right. And yet here we are. And you mentioned King, 56 years, right, after his assassination. He talked about the content of our character instead of the color of our skin and that stuff. Who would have thought? And this is the question I asked Andrew Young, the great ambassador, the former Atlanta mayor, and I know you are pretty close to Ambassador Young. I asked him, who would have thought that here we are in 2020? It was 2023 when I was speaking with him. I asked him, who would have thought all these years later we'd still be fighting or talking about the same thing? And he, he's like Dr. Chavis in a lot of ways, and they're cut from the same cloth. Obviously, Dr. Chavis is always you will always hear Dr. Chavis say this: "I'm optimistic." Andrew Young said, "I'm optimistic." Now, it's great when someone like Dr. Chavis or Andrew Young can tell us younger ones, even though you and I got more grade than Andrew Young and Dr. Chavis, they got more age and wisdom than we do. But it's great when they can tell the younger ones that they are optimistic. It feels good, right? And perhaps they see things we can't see yet, but I don't see it. I'm optimistic for different reasons. I'm optimistic because like so many, people have their beliefs, and I have a belief that things will ultimately change, right, for all of us, for the better. But I don't see where people in general can be optimistic when they see this officer doing what so many other officers do with impunity. I don't see people being so optimistic when you could see, as I always mention, in 2020, 75 million people went to the polls to vote for somebody who said, and then did, somebody who said, I can shoot somebody
After 4 years.
on Fifth Avenue and get away with, somebody who says, I can grab women by their private parts. And what is he in court for today? Sexual assault.
Rape.
Yes.
The judge called him a rapist.
He threatened Haley yesterday.
Yes, that was the other thing.
She basically she better get out of the race.
He threatened. When has that ever happened? He threatened other Republicans, including the dancing for a jig, blackface man, Tim Scott, should be incensed that this man publicly, it's out in the open now. There's no more dog whistles, no more hints. This man publicly threatened Nikki Haley
To get out of the race.
to get out of the race.
Yeah. No, it was I don't understand how human beings, let's put aside, white, black. I don't understand how any decent human beings can support Donald Trump. Women, he mocked last night her dress. I'm not a fan of Nikki. Sorry, I was about to call her governor, but Nikki, my buddy Nikki. No, but he mocked her dress.
Yeah.
Who does that but Donald Trump? And unless we get out and vote in record numbers, one thing I wish that Dr. Chavis had asked Congresswoman Debbie Watts Shelton, the former chair of the DNC. I wish he had encouraged her. I'm sure he did in private conversation. But look, you all need to, you're up here talking about the right to vote. You all need to help get the message out by investing in the Black press.
Yeah, that's it. That's a perfect way to end this morning. Folks, we are again at the National Newspaper Publicists Association's 2024 annual Midwinter Training Conference here in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. We'll be here the rest of the week. There's going to be other programming. I appreciate everyone watching the town hall last night, the historic town hall last night. Yeah, live here from Fort Lauderdale. We got some more things coming up. And yes, Power 96. Eventually, you'll see the red bone. But thank you all so much for tuning in this morning. Stay tuned because we're coming back with some more. Thanks for watching.